Welcome, everyone. This is the Model Mindset with your boy Brian and John. Today is a very special day because we have our first guest. And I am fortunate enough because I went to high school with him. We got to know each other working Tony's Landscaping. Shout out to junior and senior Tony Campanelli. And through there, we became friends in high school. And then we went our separate ways. We both went to college. And then through our mutual friends, Mike and Katie, we became close. And, even when you moved out to California, we still remained close. And when you moved to Memphis, same thing, man. I mean, we care about each other, care about each other's families, our growth as people. And so I personally want to say thank you because in 2018, when I was thinking about becoming a certified personal trainer, you were one of the biggest motivating factors for me. So I first want to say thank you. And I'm going to introduce everyone in the world to Mr. Chris Chase. Thank you.
Wow.
How are you, buddy?
What an intro, dude.
Right.
Is that written down? Or is that off the rip? That's freestyle?
That's a little bit of hype now.
That's right.
I'm honored. I'm honored to be talking with you guys, man. This is cool.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I remember many a phone conversation going through, just talking about a journey or taking a step in a different direction and pursuing a passion. And I think I've been lucky to be able to do that. And I know everybody, like at that time, I think, you went back into the workforce and maybe that wasn't the right time or getting into the right thing. And I see and feel like the struggle of folks who aren't able to do it and they're stuck in that rat race. And like, it's cool to see you, jumping out into that space and that new journey and pursuing something that I think is really meant for you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. And honestly, it's kind of getting over that fear barrier, you know what I mean? But for people that don't know you, Chris, can you give a background on yourself and your journey so everyone can kind of feel like, oh, all right, this is Mr. Chris Chase here?
Sure. I don't know if it warrants such a, like a notorious sort of intro, but yeah, man, I mean, I think I'll hit some of the high notes like that are familiar, between the two of us or that we share. And like you said, going to high school and being from, and both of us being from Enfield, Connecticut and growing up there. And I think becoming close over years that, through kind of high school, post high school and like weird years through college, kind of coming back home and just these sort of interspersed moments of being able to hang, going, whether it's at Mike and Katie's in the summertime or, you traveling shit down to Atlanta when I worked for the Hawks and
that's awesome.
It's yeah. And that's been, so my, you've kind of been there along this whole journey. And I guess the journey has been like, I was lucky to dive into college as well and not really knowing what I wanted to do and kind of wandering around I was a pharmacy major initially and realized like, man, this is like, I just wanted to do it because somebody told me I could make six figures out of college. I'm going to forget this teacher, but you would know him, somebody from Enfield High School, but he was like, yeah, like pharmacy majors, like, oh, you can make $100,000 coming out of school. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that's your motivation at the time.
Oh yeah.
Get into it, work retail pharmacy. I'm going to make this, a long story long, but work retail pharmacy. And like, I think, relevant here, cause like talking about passions, like I didn't, that wasn't my passion whatsoever. Like the pharmacy was kind of retail pharmacy. Like I worked at Rite Aid in Enfield and over the summer and I was like, man, this is just not it. And changed my major to what I thought was a passion too, which I think still is just education and like going to school to be like a high school science teacher. And science was like probably the one subject I was like, I maybe got a good handle on this. And I do like the teaching piece. And then like just in the midst of like searching through the major book of choices at UConn, looked at this thing called exercise science. It was like under the kinesiology umbrella, and was like, oh, this is interesting. I still like to train. Like has been one of my passions since I've been a teenager. It was like, oh, like what job do you have if you major in this? I didn't even know what a strength coach was. And I didn't even know us at a school that was like very, kind of renowned for strength and conditioning and exercise science, all these things. And so I met with somebody to be like, well, what do you do with this? Like if you go into exercise science, and they talked about being a strength and conditioning coach. And I was like, oh, this is interesting because this is Division I athletics, and you would work with players. And it's like, oh, you're not really like a personal trainer. Like this is high level stuff. And so it was like this, this just interesting, like, I don't even know what this is, but like, let me dive into this. Cause instead of going through education, I was in that program for like half a year, changed my major again. And then I'm diving into like, UConn football interning as a strength coach. It was like very like weird. Like,
what year was that?
I graduated in 2009.
So were you like a junior or a sophomore? Or?
Yeah. That was I think that was my third year, because I took a victory lap. I had that year 5. Changing my major twice. So that was probably my third year that I like started in this like interning, and that was like the thing. It's like you get plugged in because it's a lot of practical stuff. So like you're taking your anatomy, phys, like biomechanics classes, and like the science stuff. Can I swear on this? Are we swearing?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All those fucking classes, and then they plug you into like interning with mainly football, because football needs the help. So if you can handle it, like if you can be in there and function in this high tension, crazy environment, then they're like, all right, like just, because they just need bodies because there's so many people. So then then you're cruising, like then I'm into this, and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is cool. Like this is what I want to do.
So that passion, did that passion kind of spark there when you got that first taste?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't know. It definitely, because football was the main thing. And I started to realize quickly, like once novelty wore off, that I didn't want to work football. And it's a weird thing because everyone wants to get plugged into football, and like that's where a lot of money is. Like these coaches get paid over half college strength coaches, football strength coaches get paid like $500,000 a year now. Wow. So like that is like, you're trying to shoot for that. But I was like, man, this is just like not the environment. I can't really be me. It's weird. You have to play this character. It's like, a lot of these coaches are very like, it's almost like World Wrestling Federation. Like you're just like, you're playing a character that's not really you, because you're a motivator, there's not a lot of intricacies and like science-based, application in football, because it's just so fast paced. It's just gritty. It's just like squat, bench, deadlift. Let's go. Let's get through, put weight on. So getting out of that, like having that experience, the passion, to your point, like it didn't hit quickly. I knew I liked strength and conditioning. I was like, okay, cool. Like if I could make a living out of this would be great. Like I don't want the office jobs. Like that was my parents. I know they hated their jobs. That was what was in my mind, that I was trying to find something that I didn't feel that way. I don't know what that means, but like this sounded like, okay, this is the thing that can get me out of like whatever my parents didn't like about their careers, or being stuck in a cubicle, et cetera. Changing majors was this weird process. Like going through undergrad, it was like, what am I going to do with my life type thing, knowing that like I was really scared about getting into that corporate space and just diving into the cubicle, and there you go, that's it. Just because that's what I saw, that was just like, okay, excuse me, you might be working for retirement and working for the weekends, and that's it. It's like, there's got to be more. At least, if the job is taking up such a big chunk of your life, there has to be some joy, or not has to be, but like, wouldn't it be nice if there's some joy from it if you spend 8 hours a day? And now with like this job, it's like it's 24/7 during the season. There has to be some enjoyment there,
Yeah.
Yeah, for
that
sure, man.
resonates, man.
So what was your next stop after UConn, man? Where did you head to after that?
Yeah. So grad school, I went to Springfield College. So then, to your point, to finish that up, that's kind of where the passion hit. Cause like Springfield College in Massachusetts is like a cool space for strength and conditioning. They're known and have a history, like randomly, like not many schools, there's not many like strength and conditioning oriented schools. And now there are like more programs that focus on that track to kind of get into athletics or team sports. So they were unique in that they've been doing this for a while, and they make it very practical. So like when you go to Springfield, they allow you to, or they give you teams on your own. So then you are an actual strength coach,
Okay.
a head strength coach, essentially. For me, I had football for my second year. So as much as I like didn't want, it's funny from UConn, it's like, okay, I have this like weird taste in my mouth for football. But once I was able to kind of, novel concept, right? But once I was able to be in that powerful position without the thinking I'm an intern and having some of the anxiety that comes with that, where it's like, oh, these guys aren't really listening to me. Like, I'm just kind of this random person. Instead, it's like, you're the guy, like you can do your own programming. And then it's like, oh, okay. Like when I have some skin in the game, when I have some skin in the game, it feels much better. And it was cool because like Springfield is like, there's a big group of that are in this grad program because of the popularity of it. So then you have the help from all these other people. So it was cool where you're like, oh, this like group think of people that are also trying to learn and they're also passionate about it. So it's like not like controversial or not polarizing or not animosity there. It was really like, oh, we kind of all love this shit. And it's like working out. So like, what are we doing? Like, we love to train. This is not so serious. Like they'll pay us for this. Like we can just hang out here and like have this football team come in here. And those were like the funnest times, honestly, I had. Now I wouldn't want to work football probably again, but like it's such a time commitment. It's crazy. Like I said, I don't want to play character, but in that, like Springfield College is like kind of gritty. It's D3. It's New England, like it lives that vibe. And so like D3 dudes are playing it without like getting scholarships.
All passion. Oh yeah. Right. It's all passion.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Playing for passion, and like those dudes like exude the classic New England tough vibe. And so they'll do anything, it's like the vibe in there was super cool for that year. So anyway, go through that program. And then, so I get a master's degree. It's this exercise science with focus in strength and conditioning. And I interned during that time at UCLA and USC. So out in California, like that was formative during that time to like go out to California and live there for a summer, like fell in love with that and dying to get back there. Was lucky to be able to live there for a few years after school. But those internships at SC, like it's crazy. Cause do you know Tim Karen?
I know of him.
Yeah. So, he got into strength and conditioning. He, we keep in touch, we get connected. He is a coach at USC, and, that's the hookup to get out there for the internship, which ends up turning into a job a year after that, after I took a stop in University of Rhode Island. So after school, get a first coaching job at URI. That was great. It's D1 school, but super small staff, terribly paying job.
So what sport was that at URI?
So URI is like the way they do it at like those schools. Like if you have, they got 1 million sports, like a lot of schools, and you have 3 strength coaches. We had 2.5, really 2 full-time, 1 part-time. And like the first job, I go from USC, which is a $70 million weight room that they just built, ridiculous funding, to URI, which we were working out of a weight room in like a converted classroom. So they blew out the walls in between, and they like put, racks and platforms in there. Your desk is like somebody's cleaning, and like you're doing work on a desk that's essentially right underneath them. Like it was. Wow. It was weird. And then we would take them, the auxiliary weight room was like up a hallway into this side room that, again, they just threw some equipment in. And it was like, okay, these are your facilities for like a Division I school. So like that was that's 10 years ago. And like things have changed drastically in this space where like now money gets like really thrown at like training facilities and stuff like that. But at that time, now I sound old, but like at that time, like it was very new to like get a big facility. So that was good for a year. And then a job opened up at SC and hit that job for 3 years. Living in California was awesome. That was cool for that period of time. Like in your 20s, like early mid 20s to like, well, mid late 20s, I guess, to like hang out there for a little while. And then one of my buddy who, you know, talk about like networking and relationships and getting to know people in your passion. One of my buddies who is actually from Rhode Island, and we had met like long ago in New England through some mutual friends in training. He had gotten the job in the NBA, and you met him when you came down to Atlanta. Mike,
great guy. He showed me his Warriors championship ring.
No doubt, right. So exactly, excellent context to this story where he worked for he got into the NBA through a mutual friend, networking, and got a job as a strength coach for the Golden State Warriors. And he practices as a physical therapist, so kind of doing both. But that was one of their championships he was there for, like right after Mark Jackson in the first year with Steve Kerr. Okay. And then after that year, the Hawks were like kind of blowing up their staff and like doing a whole new thing. Like Coach Bud, Mike Budenholzer, he's the coach for the Bucks now. He had they had just won 60 games, were the number 1 seed in the East. And they were kind of like just revamping stuff and like, okay, all anew, we're going to go in this new direction. So whole new performance and medical staff. And then, through Mike and another person, they got jobs in Atlanta. So through that networking, it's like, hey, you're my guy. Let's do this thing. So, I mean, super, 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 super lucky. Like it's one of those where like, if somebody asks like, okay, how do you get into like the NBA? How do you break in? It's like, I really can't tell you because it
sounds like a lot of networking.
I could just tell you networking, of course, but like there's no path to like luck that person gets the job and then is thinking of you,
Right.
So
you mentioned like the the Hawks and they were kind of rebuilding their organization and all that. Is that like a theme in professional sports when you notice maybe I won't say job openings, but other organizations that have those openings for strength and conditioning coaches? Does that usually happen when they're doing a whole rebuild of their organization that you hear about?
I mean, that's a good question because like it's different from college. Like college is, you hear about it. It's on ESPN now, like where these strength coaches are sort of like chefs now, like as celebrities, where you're zoned in on like, oh, John Calipari is, and maybe bad example because he doesn't bring his strength coach around, but like somebody will like associate with a coach and travel with them around the country. And so job openings are weird where it's like, oh, maybe by the time the job opening is there, like other industries and job openings, it's like, oh, it's already been filled. Like they already have their guy. In the NBA, I think that's less the case. It's like, it's that weird, like you kind of have to know some folks to then get wind of a job and just through word of mouth kind of. And some organizations are more open about it, and as open as they probably have to be. But it's kind of hard to like, I think I wouldn't be good. Like, that's why I'm again, lucky. Cause it's like I have a tough time doing that. Like the schmoozing to like figure out jobs. And like, that's a tough piece for me. Cause it doesn't feel genuine, but like folks I think are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Which is how did you get to Memphis again? Do you mind just kind of painting a picture on that? Because I know you had something good going on in Atlanta. Is that when they started to is that when the coach at the time then went to Milwaukee and they kind of started letting the team make big drastic changes?
No, I mean, it's interesting. Like this is actually like now, cause I've been in Memphis for 5 years now where it's like, I feel solid enough, but like, it was very different. This is like this is where it's like, oh, we're opening up here to something that is like good now. Like when I look back on it. But at the time it was like, probably became like a harder experience because in pro sports, it's like that on paper, we could think that, okay, this situation will be perfect. But then when you get into that, it brings up an interesting conversation in something like this conversation about working with your friends. Like, we still deal with this. And I mean, this is, nothing that I think in a negative way at all, but like, it's tough to mix that friendship with then a working relationship. And we've sort of done that over like, it's like we have sort of our circle of friends from Mike and Katie, et cetera, where like this circle of friends now that I've worked with and known for over a decade, where it's like we have this working relationship and this friendship that can be that it's just the ups and downs and forwards and backwards and figuring things out in positive periods of time and negative periods of time. That is an interesting journey to take. And the combination of that and the first 2 years of working in the NBA, like the first year is just a very weird, stressful, crazy experience because you're just trying to find your footing and figure out like, what is this? Like, this is celebrity. This is a show, but we're meant to be like putting this serious training to work for these players. But like, it's just a weird, there can be some interesting folks that are involved in such a thing. Walking around, we're like, okay, what are the motives here? Like, so it's to get your footing in that hectic environment. First year is crazy. And then it kind of moved into like, there might be a better situation out there. And something in Memphis came up that was attractive. And like my other buddy, Eric, who had oddly enough lived with Mike and I in Atlanta, because he's from that area, went to school there. So when you came to Atlanta, he was not rooming with us. It was in our previous place because he got a job in Memphis. So we were all living together. I worked with Mike for another year while Eric, my other buddy, works in Memphis. Then after my second year in Atlanta, Eric's like, hey, there's this job open here. It's like, at the time, it's like strength and conditioning, like a development coach for like the younger players. And to me, that sounded like college, where I had such a good experience in college at USC. Like I was like, oh, this sounds like a college-y type of role to like have these young players, G League players, some of the rookies where, hey, your focus is more of like, they're still there. I mean, they're one and dones. They're college sophomores and juniors. Like that's an age group that it's like, okay, like that sounds like college-y where I have some positive vibes from. Let's roll with this. So, I mean, not interesting times, I would say. Like I'll leave it at that that transition. But I think it worked out. It worked out well to still be in Memphis, which is great. Like Memphis gets better and better every year. Like it's the life lessons learned. Like that's another cool part about the job, where it's like not only your passion, not only have we gone through sort of like the fire in this weird environment of pro sports, but we also have like this like super positive sort of bond that kind of grows as these years go along through kind of like iron sharpening iron, and learning from each other in all these crazy ways. So it's cool. Like it's definitely like it'll come to an end, as so many things in pro sports do, sooner rather than people probably want. And when that happens, I think it'll be like, man, that was a really like formative experience for the 10 plus years that it was going on. You know?
And you said you've been in Memphis for 5 years now, Chris?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've been in there for an interesting time then, because that team's grown a lot in the last 5 years. Like they've gone from, working their way through high draft picks now to having, obviously Jaws there and all that. And now they're, hopefully a perennial playoff team now. Do the behind the scenes change with an organization like that when they seem to be growing and taking off?
Yeah. Like I think this is where I can speak in generalities on this stuff, but I think what I've learned, this is like the coachy stuff, where in general, now seeing it and seeing or having experience over some years and seeing a variety of cultures, anybody who has played sports, right? Like it's when you see it become a real positive thing and go on the journey of like how that happens and like choices are made that are, you start to see like, oh, these are these are why these choices, these are why these choices are being made in a positive direction to create this positive culture. And it's like, oh, this works. Like this makes a difference, like and this is, everybody sort of knows this, like the Miami Heat, their brand of, there's so much about Heat culture, like that'll be posted around, and like, it's kind of a joke, but like, that's, that makes a difference. Like, I think in all of our lives, where some of it might be cheesy or some of it you might not know why, but like after 6 months, then you start to realize. After a year, then you start to, like, you're in it, you've leaned in, you're buying in, et cetera, et cetera. So like that is seeing that and going through that now, it's like, yes, a huge piece of the positive is the culture piece. And
for sure.
To be honest, like when I was younger, I probably underestimated that. And this is probably a good example of like, lessons learned of getting out of school and thinking, and realizing you don't, where, reading from the book and doing things from the book and thinking something because you have a degree, and like a lot of these other coaches don't. And they talk about culture and they talk about, relationships with players. And it's like, I kind of discount that. I'll be good with that. But it's not as easy as you think. And then you realize how valuable it is once you take the relationship piece into account and you really lean into that almost first, really. And then the training takes care of itself. The effort that you used to coach, now you don't need to coach it because you care about their family and you know what's going on in their day. And you've done something good for them outside of coaching or outside of the workplace. So, that it makes a big difference
for sure.
And Chris, you mentioned the relationship aspect of it. Can you kind of tell us the biggest difference between, coaching your Division I athletes compared to your professional athletes? I mean, clearly there's going to be some differences, but would like to kind of hear kind of mindset wise as well.
Yeah. I think that gets me to like, just think about, now again, over some years, like you see players come through and you're like, okay, what is this common thread of folks that get to this level and then are able to stay? Because a lot of guys are in and out. And then what's the common thread of people that get in and are out pretty quickly? And again, I go back to the relationship piece, and you realize more and more, like I look back at the evidence of the guys, like, oh, they were, we got rid of them quick, or, that person didn't last even with the next team and they were out of the league, is your personality piece. Like we talk about culture, we talk about like a part of that is probably like just being a good person and being a good teammate and having a good vibe about you and treating it like a job. And again, just in generalities, like this kind of goes into every industry. And I think what's unique in this space is that because it's entertainment, because it's a bit of celebrity, it's eyeballs on you. So if you treat it like a job, like, what we would treat, our job like, and come to everything on time, be prepared, like, be a positive influence on the whole, the whole machine or the whole team. That's something that I think the successful guys do. Novel concept, right? But I think some guys get lost in the sauce a little bit, just because the nature of what it is. And those guys don't last. So I can come in, again, this is common thread for any industry, but if you come in late and you probably, think you're bigger than this, or you dive into a wrong, a wrong path with like things outside of basketball or people that you're like, okay, I'll just have this crew take care of my training and get treatment from these people. Like that becomes, an interesting relationship with the team. And now you're not a positive, driver within the team. That I think now, or with a good culture, that's the common thread, is that everybody's sort of bought into that piece. Like, this is our team. We are in this together. Nobody's bigger than that, even though people really are.
Right, exactly.
Even if you are, like, there is a sort of leaning into the things that you should lean into just for the common good,
Yeah.
So, yeah. yeah, anyway, that piece again is like the X's and O's, like we talk about all the time as we get older as coaches. Now, having known these coaches and been friends with these guys, like I was talking about before, for a long time, it's like, it's just funny how you get older and we all are turning to building the relationship piece as this more and more primary piece with any athlete, coworker, coaches, etc. As this thing like, oh my God, that's the piece that gets you everything else,
Yeah, for sure. And I know, listen, we can talk to you all day about your profession because it's super interesting and the journey seems like it's thorough and exciting. But I also want to get into Chris the person too, as far as your mindset growing up. When fitness really became an integral part of your life. Was it something that you had a strong interest in growing up, and then lucky enough for you, it blossomed into a career? Like when did fitness kind of start making a mold and an impact in your life?
Yeah, probably not really like a classic story of like other strength coaches who could cite like bodybuilding magazines and like, knowing about figures in this field that like really until I got to college, I didn't know, a history and other, folks that feel like, oh my God, like this legend in the strength and conditioning game, or a strongman or a bodybuilder or a performance coach that's written these books or those books. So I was very, very new to that later in life. And I think where I got into it was just like, was random. It was like having some weights in the basement and,
right.
Just, I don't even know why, like just doing probably a lot of curls and then probably didn't do not one leg exercise until I got to high school.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think I remember like doing exercises in the, like bringing up dumbbells and like having a mat and like doing sit-ups and like, again, probably just like arm exercises and push-ups in the living room, like while watching the TV with the family. Like I would just be like hitting curls, like prison style.
Prison style.
Yeah, man. We're just watching Boy Meets World, and just checking it out.
Classic.
Yeah. And so that was there, and it's like, okay, like I like working out in high school, playing football, playing basketball, or just playing sports in general.
Yeah.
Like, all right, like maybe after my sophomore year or freshman year, I forget, of high school, I think I worked out a lot. And it was one of those like, oh, somebody notices, and then that gets you like, oh, okay, like it's the classic. Oh, I like that. I like somebody noticing that my upper body only is jacked every day. And so that was cool. And then you just dive deeper. So then it's, then obviously you learn what a leg day is, and you start again. I didn't know anybody, but I think like I'm lucky that, and this is, I mean, maybe sounds pretentious, but like I can get into the weight room and just like do whatever and figure it out, where I don't have like these restrictions where, okay, I can squat pretty easily, I can deadlift pretty easily. Like I'm picking this up quick. I'm much better at training than I am at team sports. Like that piece where it's like, oh, I can be athletic, I can be strong. And, those who can't do sort of teach, right? In strength and conditioning is full of that. Like strength and conditioning is like, we joke is like, sort of, maybe it's a bad joke, but like cops in high school, where it's like you become a cop because you want to kind of like, oh, I'm an authority figure a little bit, or other professions like that, where it's like, all right, like I love training. I want to get into coaching and education. I can't really do what you do, but hopefully I can be an educator and in being good at lifting weights, I guess, So then it's like going from Gold's Gym and then feel like Planet Fitness, like, days of, you were going to Planet Fitness, right, Brian?
I'm still back there. Actually, now I'm back there. They closed Club Fitness, and then I'm like, all right, damn, I'm going back to Judging Free Zone. Look, alarm.
Planet Purple, baby.
Did you go to Gold? Did you go to Gold?
No, I went to Club Fitness. which used to be gold.
It was gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
gold.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Yeah. But like working out, like I just worked out in those. Like I didn't do sport performance stuff. I didn't know anything about that again until I was like sifting through the majors and being like, all right, this is strength and conditioning. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that was different to like. I wish I could have that story of like, man, I had this dream of like I was always into the training and I knew all these people. Because like people are really good at the history and things that like they still don't have a great grasp on. But it was more like I need to get into a job, like I said in the beginning, that I feel a passion for, and I just was in the right place and stumbled upon something. Like if I was at another school, it would have been something totally different. So one of those like maybe meant to be things that worked out.
Sure.
That's awesome. And sticking with kind of like your routine and what's working for you now with you. Now, me personally, and I know John's feeling the same way, is I feel like it's really important to have like a morning routine. But what is like your typical morning routine look like? And how have you recently tailored your training programs for yourself? And do you typically alter your training programs, every like 6 weeks? How do you focus on yourself?
Yeah, I love great transition into the X's and O's. So let's get into this.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with some of the routine stuff, and I think they're now in 10 years plus in this where there's been a million different things, that come and go and that are ridiculous or that are really valuable. And like a morning routine, right, is the classic thing. And like you're setting yourself up, by, I think, number one, sleeping, which I struggle with for sure. I have an Aura ring now, which I think becomes interesting to get your sleep data as those things become more common and less expensive and more accurate. I think it's valuable to it's like, man, it is the thing, right? Like it is the thing that is a game changer and a powerful way to recover that sounds so cliche, but like if your sleep is messed up and you're not getting enough of it, I think that's a huge problem. And if you're doing that for the rest of your life, you might as well try to fix that or figure out if you're actually successful in doing that. Getting some objective data, I think, is like something I see now at this level that is now expected and so easy. And we, have access to pieces of equipment that allow us to do this. And I think that's something I've learned is like, take ownership of this. Like there's many a way to assess these things yourself and get anything you want in terms of objective data to audit your health. I think I wouldn't be able to speak eloquently on this, and this is a bit of a tangent, but like I think Peter Attia talks a lot about this if folks listen to him, but just talking about different tests to sort of get this objective suite of data that is super easy now, and you really like I think folks find out some interesting things about that. Oh, I could take some vitamin D and have some interesting changes, or my sleep is actually messed up and I thought it was good. I actually wake up or don't get much REM sleep, etc. So like, I think that's valuable. Bit of a tangent, but valuable.
I think that's
absolutely, man. We love that stuff.
Love it. Yeah,
to sort of set up the morning thing. And I think, there's valuable stuff with like, I'm a room vibe and temperature guy, like white noise, temperature low, all the things that anybody would say, blackout curtains, these are things that, we set up and help with our players as like, a most important thing, and many teams do these things, teams will get specific mattresses for players and because of the importance of this piece. And I think it's silly at this point. Again, it's like so common. It's easy to do this stuff to like, I know people probably don't. That's why I would say the objective data is important. Like you may think like, oh, I'm fine with whatever my room setup, but maybe there's some light coming in there. Maybe the temperature's high and maybe you'd realize with an Oura ring or something, oh, I actually don't get much REM or I actually toss and turn, while I'm still sleeping. So my sleep is, kind of intermittent. And, if you set up a room in a different way and you kind of retest and get some new data, it's interesting to see how those changes make you feel. So waking up, I think there's interesting pieces with that of like alarm clocks and like slow lighting up pieces. Like I think those alarms are interesting. I think light is interesting in the morning of like how you wake up to harsh light or light from your cell phone, things like that. I think those pieces are interesting to me because like maybe I don't wake up right away. Like I'm not going to pretend like, hey, man, you should be bouncing out of bed and just diving right into stuff. I'm not going to pretend I do that. So I think like having something that is before you hit your phone and before you hit harsh light and stuff like that, I think that, again, is interesting to me. I think something that's valuable to try to do. Like I want to pretend these things are like, these people that are like, oh man, like I do this every day. It's like, be real. Like you probably don't. Like maybe you're 75% compliant at best. So I think there's positive with like, the reading piece or like easing into the day with activities that it's like a bit more slow paced if you have the time. I'm sure with kids and with job, it's tough. So if you're in that place, then I think it's like health and wellness with nutrition comes to mind because I'm not going to pretend that you're not running out of the house or trying to get somewhere quickly and you're going to do something that is quick for food. You're not going to compromise like, oh, I'm going to wake up an hour early to make this or that. But how do you set yourself up from a nutritional standpoint that's probably like protein oriented and not like a, carbohydrate laden muffin,
exactly.
That sort of stuff, and it's like, I know people would say, okay, like, really what recommendations, but like, like you could probably get away. I mean, like cooking eggs is easy. And I could say things like that eggs are high in protein. You could certainly have meat in the morning with something, if that's your thing. It's just when people get like, oh, I just do a breakfast sandwich every morning, or, oh, I just do, something that you're like, oh man, that's just like kind of sugar, carbohydrates that, like you're kidding yourself if that's setting you up for a productive feeling day, like physically. And that's just the real thing. And I mean, you could do whatever after, but is that your first, like I wake up, I have this good wake up, I have this good like ingestion of something. And then that kind of gets you into this, like, oh, I'm pretty clear thinking and I'm going to work,
Right.
So, I mean, I'm a coffee guy, like that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm love me some stimulants, but, but yeah, like it's so easy to make coffee healthy now. I mean, you could just, every alternative milk in the world and low sugar this, like, again, where people get in trouble is, where people do like Starbucks, caramel macchiato, like weird stuff that is like, you can still, there's so many options. Like if you just go a layer deeper of just like, all right, I got to think about this, like, not just superficial, like, let me think, all right, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to like actually buy this other thing that is going to make my coffee healthier. And like, I'm just going to do this, like, and, oh, this is healthier I go a layer deeper. And it's like, oh, I found out like, this is an easy alternative, something that it doesn't taste bad, like that process you have to go through. I think realistically is hard, but worth it for sure. So,
it's funny, man, because like for me personally, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like you try to keep it simple in the morning as best you can. And when you're talking about light, I've been reading and hearing a lot about like taking in natural light to start your day. So like just going outside and being outside for a few minutes, taking in some natural light right away to start your day. You hydrate right away. You have, like you said, something good to eat that's simple. If you take vitamins, grab your vitamins. And that just changes the course of your day totally. I've been doing that probably for like making sure I'm consistent on like those 4 key points for about a month now. And this past month has been drastically different than the month before. It's like those simple baby steps of doing those things has totally changed the outcome of my days and the way, the rest of those 12 hours in my day go for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You're setting yourself up for success, like right off the bat.
It's so simple too. You take just water, drinking water first and taking in, something other than like you said, like a caramel macchiato first thing in the morning. You know what I mean? Grab some water, or like you said, you know, your
Not as
body wants
delicious
water.
as the caramel macchiato.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
But the water's pretty good.
The water, you know, your body hasn't had anything to drink in 8 hours. You know what I mean? Give it some water to start.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
it's simple
100%.
things that you're
Yeah.
probably don't think of, but you know, when you start to practice it, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, what else as far as
And
nutrition goes? Oh, I'm sorry, man. Go ahead, BG.
no, go for it. I was going to say, you know, with because you're taking us through the day, like when you started hitting on the nutrition component too. I'd like to dive into that too. So we'll take us into the nutrition component, and then we'll go into like the training, like how your training has evolved and like what you focus on.
Yeah. And I know you asked about the training piece too. But yeah, I mean, I think again, the nutrition piece, like you're talking about with like a wake up thing, it's like, I am not going to pretend that I'm the best with nutrition, and try to lie and say like, this is, you know, I can get away with eating certain things. So like, you know, then it's easy to do it when it's available to say like, oh yeah, I could eat donuts and some pizza and not really care. I'm going to train. I'm going to whatever. Like, this is not really going to change the game. But for a lot of people, that's very, very different. So like the psychosocial aspects of nutrition are crazy, like where I wouldn't be able to pretend what it feels like to be somebody that, you know, eats a donut and feels like it's the last thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, and you gain 20 pounds and you just struggle with these weight shifts. Like, it's crazy. Like it's terrible that the world is this way, that like we focus on this thing as humans, this outward appearance, and this, we have to deal with these weight issues, and image issues, that it's wild. So I wouldn't be able or pretend to touch on this like in the right way with like nutrition. With performance, it's easier because like you're dealing with like a lot of an athletic population. But it still is like this psychosocial struggle of like, I associate food with pleasure. There's easy access to these things that, you know, make a lot of society obese now. It's very hard to like get rid of that or rip that away. If I had to, it's like, if I couldn't get away with it, I'd be like, man, like, what would I do if I couldn't eat like some chocolate chip cookies, you know? Like, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Be like crazy with that, you know? So that's a tough piece. And I'm consistent enough with like a decent route, like, you know, approach to it, I think, where it's like, hey, don't eat like an asshole. Like, when was the last time you went to McDonald's or like Taco Bell or like that stuff, like low hanging fruit, crazy. Like, if you're still doing this, like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, just learning some stuff, realizing how much protein you need in a day. Easy one. Like, I know everybody talks about protein now, and that's like a fashionable topic anyway. But like, you know, if you calculate, you know, the amount of protein you need in a day, like for an athletic population, I don't know what they would say for like a sedentary population, but for an athletic population, they talk about like 1.8 to like 2.1 grams per kilogram of body weight. So like, say I'm like 90 kilos, you know, I'm at 90 grams or 180 grams, good math, 180 grams,
Not a math, not a
protein a day, you know, and didn't have my TI-83 on me. But like if you know, like I hit people with that all the time, like players with that. It's like, man, do you realize what, like, you know, for them, more than that, like 200 some odd grams of protein, like what you have to eat in a day, like to kind of sustain this muscle and with the activity level that you're doing. And again, athletic population different if you're mom and pop just chilling on the couch for most of the time.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting realization. And how many of those do you have when it comes to nutrition, which you should take ownership of, because that's the thing this is like the thing that's keeping you alive and extending, you know, potentially extending your life.
Right.
You would probably do some research into that. And I'm not going to pretend I know much on the nutrition side. That's a pretty weak point. I'm in this like sort of training zone.
Yeah.
Where nutrition is like, okay, like I know I've learned some stuff along the way.
Yeah.
But what has been valuable is learning about myself and then kind of read an article once in a while and just kind of tap into like, do you know what macronutrients are? Like carbohydrates, fats, proteins. And when you look at a piece of food or look at a plate, can you, quickly assess what you're dealing with and make a logical decision to say like, hey man, this is kind of ridiculous. It's just like, carbs and some shitty sauce with sugar, this, whatever. It's just like, all right,
Yeah.
I can make a decision that like, this is just not going to give me much. And maybe this other thing is like the not as cool tasting, like maybe the fettuccine Alfredo versus like you've got a good piece of steak with some veggies and rice or whatever.
Right.
It's like
exactly, yeah.
like you're just going to get more out of that. Like it's just the decision that you should make. And the struggle then to do that, that's again where I would be lost. And that's why we have like mental health people and therapists now to like say like, okay, like willpower wise, are you making those decisions pretty consistently or consistently enough to make a change? So it's diving in, like commit some time to it. And you need, what's your entry point? Like, I don't know, like search whatever, but like, you can, what is a carbohydrate? What, it doesn't matter. But like, man, that's what you put in your body every day. Like you should know some, like how much,
Right.
Yeah.
like
100%.
diet, but just like what is recommended for me at my activity level, for my weight or whatever, like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, like what, dive a layer deeper into that and what foods you can cook that are rich in these and what foods that are less than stellar. It's not a diet. It's not TB12 method saying like, I don't eat tomatoes because, nightshades or whatever. It's like, just make some logical steps, like look into logical stuff, like unbiased. I mean, everything's biased, but just some unbiased, like this is just the information. This is what these nutrients give you. This is how much that is recommended. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, and you make it sound so simple, but it truly is. If you take a step back, if you look at vegetables, you look at say like your sweet potatoes, your regular proteins, not dressing them up with butter and stuff, like that is a very healthy meal, and it's like you have to, and this sounds so funny, but it's like, you have to look at your body as like a Ferrari, you're putting the best fuel in a Ferrari. Okay. You want to go Tesla now? You want to go Tesla?
Electricity.
Oh, okay. Say, yes.
You're charging that bitch.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it's like you really got to take a step back and say, okay, am I going to fuel this fine specimen with the adequate fuel it needs, or am I going to basically operate like a Toyota Yaris? No offense to anybody that has a Yaris. You know what I mean? It's like you can put anything you want in a Yaris. You know what I mean?
Specific beef with the Toyota Yaris.
I mean, nothing. They have great MPG. So
yeah. But it's also a discipline factor too, though. Like you have to understand, like
100%.
you can say like, oh yeah, I want to have salmon instead of fettuccine or whatever like that. But you also have to like be disciplined enough to follow through with that and to maybe meal plan a little bit or cook ahead or, those kind of things. So that's also a big component, I think, in the nutritional side of things, is having the discipline to actually follow through, plan ahead, and kind of, like you said, being able to look at something and calculate what you're actually going to intake. So, a little bit about your training. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Do you guys? Well, this will be a good foray into training. But do you guys remember David Goggins?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
God, hell yeah, savage. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a very like Gogginsy thing. Is so I saw this dude. He actually spoke to the Hawks in the locker room before a game one time. It was crazy.
That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was looking back on it now, it's kind of funny. It's just like, because he's a character kind of too.
Oh yeah.
And so like, but I think, and I'm gonna get it probably wrong, but with motivation and discipline, where like to that point, in all seriousness, is like he'll talk about like motivation, like watching a video that pumps you up, listening to a song, like those things are fleeting. It lasts for a short period of time. The discipline is where he would contest, like that's me. That's what I do. Like I do this every day, rain, sleet, snow. I am not just motivated. Like I don't need music. Like all of these things that he talks about, that other people like fall to a resort to those crutches, are things that he is so disciplined that he does not need. And that, I think there's value in that, where it's like, if you need motivation, if you need these external stimuli, that's something that is like, it's temporary. It's not something that is going to last forever, so yeah, he's a wild dude. But as far as training, definitely different than Goggins. Yeah, like training is fun because getting into this, it's always now been like, a lot of my training is just experimenting to figure things out for what I'm trying to do with athletes. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So then it's always fun because it's like, all right, what works, what doesn't work, what's feasible. Those pieces are cool motivation for when it's like, oh, I don't really want to train, but it's like a good like carrot that kind of is like, all right, no, I'm actually going to train. I'm going to find some way to get motivated to do it, because there is this worth. And the other consequences, like the health, the wellness, I want to feel strong. I want to be athletic for my entire life. I think there's, huge values in the physical, like over the long term. And again, extending your I think Peter Attia calls it health span versus lifespan, or that's a popular phrase to say. So I can do things for a longer period of time, until I'm 90. Maybe I still die at 95, but like I'm with it until then, physically, hopefully mentally. So I think one thing feeds into the other, each feed into each other, where physically, if I can train and train hard, like that's the other piece that we could talk about, is like, training kind of not hard to spare some, more insulting words, is, like learning how to train hard for forever. And that's a cool piece with training, and that in what you have to do is again, with the same with nutrition. Couple layers
dive into
deep.
that a little more. Dive into a little more. What do you specify as like training hard? So like we can have a good picture of like your description on that.
Yeah. I think easy, like we talk about all the time, like, a fashionable topic to talk about in training is like how many times you go to failure. Like there's, definitely sort of a challenge, or like this rhetoric now of like, hey, if you are actually going to make a change, like how many times do you do sets to failure, and have this exertion that is like, we would use like a rating of perceived exertion scale. And if you rank that as a 10 out of 10, for instance, how many times do you do a set of leg press or a set of squats if you back squat, or just on a knee extension machine where you would provide an RPE of a 10 out of 10. So that is the hardest, that it's like my legs are burning, I went to failure, I feel crazy, I'm going to pass out. Maybe not pass out, but like that sort of exertion, like I don't, and I want to take the pass out one back because I don't want to intimidate people.
That's good. That's a good caveat.
Yeah.
We're not editing that shit. That's staying in.
Yeah. So that's a piece that I think people don't do. I think there's a growing appreciation for it's more popular now. Most people know that, I have to exercise in more and more of these challenging ways. It's not really how it used to be with maybe just aerobics or yoga or whatever. Like people are realizing that they need to train what, people would call more functionally or something, whatever that means. But I think what's coming around is the respect for a lot of different spaces that I think the general population, as we do in athletics, the same type of thing, just maybe at another level of intensity. But the space of bodybuilding has always been valuable. I think people that, people may hear that and be like, oh, like, dude, I'm on the right track. I'm doing my upper body, swole. And that's true. But I think there's also like just muscle building and hypertrophy in general, getting muscles bigger, that bodybuilders had right. And that I think, Brian, when we were talking about training for a period of time, like getting on machines that are at your Gold's Gym and at your, the easy places there at any health, not a performance facility, but the Planet Fitnesses of the world, et cetera. And if you have access to a knee extension machine, hamstring curl, even like the seated, abduction, legs go out, legs come in, like that is like, these are critical muscle groups that you have to train to get just bigger, stronger. I'm careful to say bigger here because, maybe some folks will say, I don't want to get big, but man, you would have to work so hard to get as big as you think you would be getting. So that's probably not going to happen. Respecting that space, respecting the space that is like more athletic stuff, that is, or I should say more like closed chain, as we would say, multi-joint exercises. So your back squats, your deadlifts of the world, your split squats, your one leg RDLs, like those things, like the general population should know how to do and should know how to load pretty intensely. So you could still do a squat machine. You don't have to do a barbell back squat, or you could do a leg press. Any of these things are like, the more constrained versions that are easier, but whatever those things are, you need to be able to load that significantly and be able to go to failure, which takes some skill and some technique. That's what's going to make a difference. Like these are the things that sort of set this foundation for the rest of your life. Because if you aren't able to push those intensities or work to failure at periods of time throughout the week, once or twice a week, again, the extent to which you're going to progress, like, are you going to become stronger? Probably not doing, 2 sets of 30 reps of 5 pounds on a knee extension, bicep curl, calf raise, or you're just doing Zumba. Like the forces aren't high enough to make change. That's going to be a difference when you're older of you breaking your hip or not, like you just got to you have to load bones and tissue to a greater extent. Like this is just the honesty that people are probably like, ooh, that's kind of intimidating, but yeah, like you got to figure that out. Like,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Do that. And there are so many easy ways, this is why we have machines in gyms, like these various pieces of equipment, because equipment is crazy. If you're in the exercise equipment business, like the innovation is crazy. There's many things that make all these things easier for you to do. If you do a barbell back squat in a rack and you try to go to failure, don't recommend it. But if you get into some sort of squatting machine that they have at the gym and go to failure, where you have a back support and you have, shoulder supports, and it's easy to rack the weight and all that sort of stuff, go to failure on that. Like push yourself, write it down, progress next week. Like there's nothing crazy about it. Like you could probably do 4 sets of 5 for forever, for a year, and continue to progress for some people, if you continue to push yourself towards, higher levels of exertion,
Right.
So, and then maybe the last piece is like I was going to touch on the athletic piece. Like, people don't sprint as fast as they can sprint for short periods of time.
I love it. I love that piece. Can you go into that? Because it's so important, dude. Yeah. Because like if you think about people in balance and they're falling and they're breaking their hips and stuff, it's like we lose that aspect of it.
100%. Like it's definitely this is probably where I'm most passionate about, because the athletic pieces of this job are the pieces I love the most. I love coaching the most. So like think of, what people would call like acceleration and deceleration and change of direction, like things that look like track and field, things that look like the football combine, et cetera. And those things are anybody can really do. Like if you slowly expose yourself to higher and higher intensities and volumes of these like remedial movements, you can get yourself into a sprint and a change of direction and not kill yourself and start to realize the benefit that can do for you. Again, I think well into life and as you age, again, like some of the cognitive pieces that decline over time, like if you're in your 40s and maybe hard to hear, but if you're in your 40s and you haven't like sprinted and then turned around and sprinted the other way, like a hard change of direction, like how would that feel right now? Like you do that. Like, would you tear your ACL or an Achilles? Like that shouldn't be the case.
Right.
you should, as an adult, be able to do something like that, like jump. When people jump and they haven't jumped probably for 10 years, like just jumped in the air, like something at a game happens and like they're throwing a ball or something into the stands and you jump up to try to get it and you're like, holy shit, like I've gotten off the ground like that since high school. These are things that shouldn't be happening. As we age. You're like 50 is not old, 60 is not old. Like
no.
If you are dosing, like this is where it comes back to John, what you were saying with discipline. Like if you are consistent enough and you find something that you love, that you can load and expose yourself to like higher forces. So like if you love yoga, fine, but that can't be it. Like I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
But that's, again, for longevity. I'm talking about for like when you're older, when you're 60, 65, and you got to slip and fall and you don't break a bone, or you suddenly have to react to something or get tripped or have to run, you should be able to get into a run and run kind of fast and then be like, all right, I'm fine. Like maybe I was a little sore, but like I could still do it and not fall over and not like, tear something. Like that you should find a way to work jumps into your workouts, to work sprints and changes of direction into your workouts. Treadmill, fine, interval sprinting, but like, can you sprint at 15 miles an hour? Like that's, if you're youngish, athletic-ish, like you should, you should probably be able to sprint 14 to 15 miles an hour. Like,
right.
10 seconds. And is that something that you're able to dose pretty consistently? Again, find something that's interesting to you. If treadmill sprints are not interesting, then don't do it. Do something else. If you got a basketball court, like no shame in your game. Like just do like half court and back. Like do that.
Right.
Do 10 reps. Rest a minute in between. Sprint as fast as you can. Like build it up. Like do like 50%, 60%. If it feels pretty good, the first time you do it at like 70%, like the 5 to 10 reps, come back 3 days later and try it again a little faster, But you should be able to do that workout, not get super jacked up. And maybe I should say like not 10 reps, maybe start with like 4 to 6.
But build up. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Another caveat right there. Be like, all right, let me do 10 reps. But something like that, just jump and land, 2-leg jump and land, 1-leg jump and land, jump and land right to left, go side to side. Like, all those things, like think about your brain. What does your brain have to work out in those tasks? Like this awareness of space, reaction, like quicker association between the mental and physical, that these neurological interactions over time, again, longevity, it's like, what are your cognitive abilities? Because you have fed the physical and you have had to react and be coordinated and, again, run. Think about sprinting as fast as you can. Like what that natural coordination, like this thing that we just know how to do, you got to keep that alive. That's just kind of feeding, that's watering some brain cells, I think.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so listen, man, we don't want to keep it too much longer here. I know BG and I wanted to, I know. I feel bad. We're at an hour and 10 now, so I don't want to ruin your night here. But I do appreciate you coming on with us.
Sure.
2 more quick questions for you, and they're more kind of, I don't want to say rapid fire, but maybe more of a personal question from BG and I. But mine was, I heard about your profession and kind of your journey there, and I thought it was super interesting. And but I also wanted to kind of see, maybe you seem to have worked in high intensity environments. With a lot of high intensity people. Was there ever a time, whether you were switching a location or wherever it may have been, what was the most, I guess, fear-based barrier you had to get through in your profession, as far as a time that maybe you were nervous or worried about making a transition or working in a certain environment?
Yeah. I mean, probably, many a time, I think, since it's been from a job to another job to another job, where like in coaching, you just bounce around like a lot of these people do. So I think the fear is there. I think I'm thankful that I've always thought of like, you know, at this point too, where it's like, I'll do whatever. Like at this point, it's like, I've done this. This has been awesome to have this passion. But if I needed to do something else, because things in life are now more important, significant other, dogs, family, etc., where it's like, that's easier to have less of that fear. So when this ends, and it might end abruptly, it's like, oh, we'll be okay. Like I'm down. I'm not, you know, the Memphis Grizzlies, or I'm not my job.
Right.
And that has gotten better over time. I think there was like that, like I mentioned before, that transition from Atlanta to Memphis was probably I would just say the weirdest, because it was like, oh, I still have a job, like a dream job, but I'm moving to Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It was just weird. And I had a friend there, so it made it easier. So it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I mean, cool. I think that's always there. Like a lot of us, like, it's just, if you associate, we are guilty of associating ourselves with our jobs, and the less I can do that over time, or folks can do that over time, I think, if you can, you know, it's like, I know people have to make money, but like, it's tough to make that your life, you know, so learning to do that less.
Yeah. So if you kind of like, through the time that you've gotten even more and more experience, have you been able to almost like reflect on those times where you're like, fear is starting to creep up a little bit, but you're like, hey, I've done this before. I just reflect on that. I know I can do it again. And that kind of silences the fear. Or do you kind of tell yourself, like, you talk yourself into it, like, hey, I know I'm going to be successful. I know I can do this. You know, that self-talk, because I think a lot of times what happens is people will put that negative voice in their head. Well, they just put themselves down, and then they don't act. So to me, it seems like you've kind of been like, no, I'm just going to constantly take action. So I admire that you haven't let fear dictate your life. But has it been because you're able to reflect on times in your life where you've been able to prove that you've been successful?
Yeah, probably a little bit. I think, you know, I've always kind of talked about like just putting it through the perspective wheel of like, you know, if I run this through the million different ways that I could put this in perspective, and we could tell whatever story we wanted to, and say, it could be worse because I could be living in another country, or a third world country. It could be worse because I could be making less money, or I couldn't afford a house. Could be worse. We couldn't have a house at all. You know, we'd still have to live in an apartment or something. And I think, admittedly, I think that doesn't work for everybody, but like, it's not even like, oh, I have to come up with something to give you perspective. It's just like, does it change it? Does me, like, you could go through that and somebody could be like, yeah, whatever, but I'm still in this. Like, this is still, you know, crappy, you know, but that is just works for me, where it's kind of the, like, I mean, sounds cheesy, but like a bit of a New England vibe, where like, or just, because I'm not going to pretend like I see that in my like parents or family, which is true, but you know, it's like, hey, we just do what we have to do, but not like we were impoverished or anything.
Yeah.
You know, but like, just that, like, hey, I need to just do what I have to do. So if I get out of coaching and you get fired, or you have to make this weird transition, it's like, I'm an adult. Like, I have to put this in perspective. I don't need to be a millionaire. I just need to get my shit together and have a job and be respectful of these people and take it seriously. And, you know, it's like, nobody wants to hear that like that. That's talking like to a child, but like, you know, that's what resonates with me, which is super vanilla. Cause like, I could say it's Goggins, but that, like, to me is like, that is fleeting at this point. Like, yes, if I used to watch the 300 trailer and get crazy and take pre-workout and want to go race, and that's motivation. But like,
that's
you
awesome.
know, in your 30s, it's like, oh, like, I don't care. Like, I don't listen to Goggins and like get crazy. Oh my God, this dude's such a motivator. Like, what motivates me is like, now it's like you know, like for you, Brian, you know, it's like wife and children. Like for me, it's like, I just think about my parents. I think about Allison. Like, those are things that are like the real shit that is that leads to things like discipline and leads to like, oh, if I don't have a job, like I have these things that I need to work for, I need to step up for, you know? And if I have to work at this random, if I have to go back to landscaping, I'm going to do it.
Hey, I know a company I can hook you up.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, and be like, man, let's run this thing back, man. You know? So,
dude, this, you know, what's funny is this actually segues perfectly into my question.
Oh my
because
God.
I had the tremendous pleasure of meeting Allison at Knut and Sarah's wedding. And I knew as soon as I saw her, she was the one. And I told you that a couple of weeks ago when we chatted. And it's because she brought out a different, you guys just complemented each other so well. So my question for you, man, is how has falling in love expanded your why?
Oh, man.
He's giving you that deep shit now, man. The last one is giving you the deep one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, because and Allison would laugh at this too, and you know just like thinking you never get married or go through a stint of time where it's like you think deeply about these things, and like I think we touched on this a little bit, Brian, but like you know, why get married? Why do people do that? And like, well, why am I thinking that? Because, you know, I come from a place where many of people around me and my family got divorced or were unhappy. So it's like, I just associate marriage with this negative experience and not understanding like a really positive, uplifting why. And that's just, you know, you are how you grow up, man. Like that's the experience. And so even like thinking about being young and thinking, oh, well, you think you know everything and you have this experience. So then you think about it this way, and then to evolve and kind of be in such a different space, you look back on like, you know, in your 20s or like from early 20s, mid 20s, and then it's different from like late 20s, 30s, you know, it's these weird stages where you think, you know, again, and you have no idea. And then you start to figure it out like, oh, why is this important? Why is it really important to like have this partner in life and find this person that you can bring the best out of them and they can bring the best out of you. And that's this partnership that you have. And it just enriches both of, you know, your journeys, if you will, through this whole thing. And versus if you were to do it alone, or if you weren't to get married and you didn't establish these long, more robust relationships with a person that you do if you're with someone or committed to someone or have a friend for 40, 50 years, you know, that's different than having these periods of times with probably different relationships that don't go into the depth they need to, you know? So that is, you know, finding somebody who then kind of lets you figure that out and committing to that for a long enough time to grow into something, which it has to, like learning that lesson of like, oh, you actually have to, you know, commit and stay with a person to learn if they're the right person with you.
Yeah.
Right? And for you. And yeah, then I'm glad that happens. I'm glad we evolve as humans to like be more adult and, you know, leave some people leave the fucking churlish things behind.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It changes the why, like to your question. I don't want to negate that. I think it feeds into the last piece. Like if you're motivated by something else, you know, we don't have children, but like we're motivated by each other, love for each other, you know, our families. And that's you sort of realize what that means more and more as you get older. Then your why is, she just adds to that. Like, you know, again, my parents, my sister, my extended family, like, okay, she's added into that. Now I lose my job. What of it? Like, I have to then, you know, it's motivating to like, okay, I have to do something about this now, but like, who cares if it's in the NBA or whatever? I just need to do something to be an adult, like to support these people, and keep this thing going. So yeah. It's a more motivating piece. Yeah. Thanks, man.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. Honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You know, I love you, my friend. And go Grizz, man. They're looking sharp. I saw Ja looking good yesterday.
I tell you, man, the Beale Street Bears coming for the league this year.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. All
Hey
right.
man, is there anything we can plug for you? Any social media, any projects you're working on, anything we can plug for you while you're on here? Or are you...
Man, you guys ever heard of Advocare?
No. No.
It's a pyramid scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. No, I got nothing, man.
Cool.
I'm on the old gram, but
Okay.
I actually don't. I think it's Chris_Chase. But
Yeah. It used to be Coach Chase, but I think it changed it, right?
I think I got it. Yeah, something. Yep, it is _Chris_Chase.
There you go, guys.
So I'll throw some exercise stuff out there. So
Cool.
maybe about
definitely worth a follow. Definitely worth a follow. I'll be liking everything.
yeah. See, positive.
Awesome, dude.
Thanks a lot, man. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, great. Talk to you guys soon.
Later, buddy.